Hello and welcome to yet another thrilling episode of the Ask Blue podcast. I'm Richard Austin, as you hopefully already know, and I'm joined today by Andrew Broster from Evexi. Morning, Andrew. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
I say morning. It could be any time of day, really. But welcome. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yeah,
Good.
Got here safe and sound, and
Yeah. The long trek to the Blue Star Hall podcast studios
is right round the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner from right down south. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Well, welcome, and obviously I've got to know you quite well over the last couple of years, but just for the benefit of our viewers, do you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, your background and everything?
I'm Andrew Broster, I'm the founder and CEO of Evexi.
Yeah.
We're a digital signage company based in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Really trying to make a difference in the signage market from delivering real-time content to screens.
Yeah. Good. So, and I guess you've been in the signage market a while?
Yes, by accident.
It wasn't your childhood dream to sell digital signage screens then?
No, I didn't spend a lot of time in academia and then travelling in my previous role to then suddenly fall into digital signage. Not at all.
Unlike me, I've since I was a child in the mid-14th century, I've always dreamed of selling point-of-sale and barcoding solutions. It's a lot of children dream of that, right?
Yeah, no, and I never dreamt of that either. Coming out of university,
didn't even know it might exist.
No, but really, our journey was quite interesting, I suppose. Certainly from our point of view, is that I ran a small cloud-based business starting in 2008, and in 2015 one of our partners introduced us to Sky purely by accident. Walked into a meeting in Sky, knew nothing what was going to go on in the meeting, and the next thing we know is we walked out of the meeting after saying yes to building a digital signage network in a pub network in the UK. We walked out at the end of it and said, well, what was the question? But 6 months later, we delivered an integration for Sky. Mm-hmm. And basically, that's how Evexi was born. Okay. Purely by accident and working with partners and meeting customer requirements.
Yeah. It's amazing, really, isn't it, how one project kind of defines the way that a company's going to go in its early stages, I guess, isn't it?
Yes, my board were not overly amused in the beginning. Andrew, focus on what you were good at, which was a lot of private cloud hosting. Yeah. But it's not every day you walk into a tier one media company and they turn around and say, you've got a good reputation. Can you come and deliver integrations? And it was that's how it all started.
Okay, cool. Well, from our point of view, obviously we're really interested in the signage market here at Blue Star, particularly at the moment. We've been moving into that market bit by bit over the last few years, and a lot of things happening there at the moment. So we're brought you in as a sort of expert in that market to really dive into that and try and find out a lot more about it, and hopefully pick out some interesting things for our listeners today. I was looking into this. You made a good podcast recommendation. I've done some of my research, maybe not as much research as I should have done, but I've looked into this. One of the interesting things about it is the growth in the market at the moment with signage. So 2022, the signage market is valued at about $25 billion. That's globally. I'm reading this because I messed up recently. In a podcast recently, I described the self-service market as being about 30 million, when in fact it's about 30 billion. So I was off by a factor of about 1,000. So I'm going to make sure I get this right today. So it's 25 billion in 2022, and it's expected to reach around 40 billion by 2030. So there's a lot of growth happening there in signage at the moment, even in Europe as well. So 2023, Europe's just under $8 million. And expected to more or less double to 15.5 billion by 2033. So CAGR of over 7% during that forecast period. So there's a lot of growth happening at the moment in signage, which is good for all of us who are in that market. What's driving that growth? What's making that happen at the moment?
Certainly in our world is brands and retailers in specific are now able to, certainly we'll touch on this slightly later in the retail media side, are able to start generating revenue. Margins are getting tighter and tighter in retail at the moment. So finding another revenue stream for a lot of the retailers is important. I think a lot of this has now become a commodity. In the past, it was perceived as a complex, difficult delivery mechanism for digital. I also think the carbon footprint drive is also quite heavy at the moment, whereby people are trying to transform print into digital. Now that doesn't equal one-to-one, but it's from a single print to a single screen, because we're not looking at casinos here. We're looking predominantly at being able to deliver correct messaging to customers and educating customers in store. So we're seeing a lot of growth.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of it focused around retail, which is obviously one of the big retail and hospitality huge markets for us. I mean, just probably for as much for my information as anything else, how would you describe the main elements of a digital signage installation? What are we looking at there?
Predominantly, it's delivering reliable content to retail spaces. That sounds very simple in its simplistic format, but actually that requires, and certainly in our world, a lot of working with partners. So we work and focus only on the software side. We need the hardware. We need the installers, we need the support, we need everything pulled together as a solution to be able to deliver to those retailers.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found most interesting actually about as we start to get into that signage market is how siloed, if that's the right word, it is for it into. If you do software, that's what you do. If I look at some of the other industries that we're in, there's a lot of companies that do quite a few different things. They've got their own software, they sell that software together with the hardware, they'll probably even install it themselves. I'm thinking here of some of the POS and self-service and barcoding companies that we work with, but it seems that in signage, there's, you make hardware if you're a manufacturer, you do software if you're a software company or CMS equally. Then there are integrators that take the software, hardware, combine it together, and actually then go and install it. I quite like how that's separated out.
I think that's still quite a strong approach. I mean, we're seeing at the moment a lot of acquisitions taking place throughout that supply chain, and you're finding a lot more integrators now also buying out software vendors.
Oh, right, okay.
Who are also then going to the end customer and fulfilling the whole supply chain themselves. Okay. My argument has always been, we're good at software, so we'll stick to what we're good at. I have no aspirations to go and start installing screens, arguing or negotiating pricing on solutions for delivery to retailers, either small or large rollouts. My team are 19 strong. I don't aspire to be much bigger than that, to be honest with you. We have had a lot of growth in the past, and then we shrunk again. I do really like to be able to turn around and say, look, if you want software, we're great at delivering software. We're great at supporting software. And that's what we specialise in and what we're good at doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how we first started talking really was to do with our Tech Connect ISV program. We thought you were ideal for that because you trade only, you're only interested in doing the software. So, from our point of view, Evexi works really well as a partner for our resellers who then can get on with selling the hardware side of things. So we've started talking a little bit about retail already. One of the buzzwords that I've heard about is retail media. What does that mean exactly?
It's basically a mechanism for being able to provide revenue to retailers. So, I mean, a couple of facts here just to kind of help set the scene are there's about 300 billion spent every year in the US on outside of the retail space in advertising. Of which almost all of that money is actually spent in the retail space, but the retailers aren't benefiting from what we call the out-of-home advertising side of the world.
So is that a consumer brands advertising their products, for example, like on TV or whatever?
So why not provide a mechanism whereby the retailers can, one, earn revenue on the advertising, but also focus on how that messaging and how that media and those adverts are actually delivered within the store. So out of home is typically slots of 10 seconds being displayed, for example, on a billboard, and you're sitting there in a loop playing content, and you might see the advert, you might not see the advert, depending on whether you're stopped at traffic lights or whether or not you're walking by. When you're in the retail media space, and you're, for instance, walking down an aisle, we're actually able to deliver content for brands specific to what that subject is looking for within that retail space. And that's where that market's evolving. I mean, it's been around for 20, 30 years already. I mean, there's no secret there. I mean, we're heavily focused on what we call the lift to inspire, so the lift and learn. So providing immersive, interactive experiences in the retail space. That's part of the jigsaw puzzle.
So somebody's interested in that particular product, whether it be a pair of trainers or a bottle of perfume or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Because they've literally just picked it up and you can tie in the messaging on the screens next to the
And what's even more interesting as well is the younger generations coming through are already quite well educated in what they're looking for before they go to a retailer. So they've already worked out what they want. They might end up shortlisting to a couple of products, but if you can then get them into that retail space and
probably even got funding already from the bank of mum and dad, right? Yeah,
exactly. But if you can then help them make a decision to purchase a product by digitizing and providing what we call an experience in store.
Is it kind of gamification as well, do you think, to some extent? Or
I suppose to a certain extent. I mean, I think that's where it's going to go. Being able to provide the joined up solution whereby you have people walking into a store with loyalty systems to be able to understand what their habits are, what they're looking to buy, to then be able to report it on the till, till uplift sales is, from our point of view, creating a connected journey for the user. And I think from a retailer's point of view, that's very valuable because you understand your customer.
And they can measure it as well,
Absolutely,
can't they? They can actually see that return on investment. I guess the problem with a lot of marketing is that you do the marketing, it goes out there into a void. You don't know whether it's been. I mean, the only thing you see at the end of that is product sales hopefully increasing, but you don't know whether that particular piece of marketing, on a billboard, as you mentioned before, whether that's working or not. Whereas something like lift and learn or signage screens even just a signage screen promoting a product in a store, it's a lot more measurable, isn't it? We ran a promotion today on a particular brand of cola. And I don't know why I can't say Pepsi or Coke. I can say that, right? So,
we'll find out after the podcast.
All the brands are available. I don't think they're going to come after me. Their legal team's not going to come after me on this. But you know that if you're running a promotion, in the Coke aisle, in the soft drinks aisle that week for that particular brand, and that brand then sees a resulting increase in sales because there's a bottle there of glistening with condensation and looking really tasty. I guess even without the lift and learn stuff, you can see that's going to work, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're rolling out with our partners in the UK at the moment into a retailer whereby it's been run for 6 months and they have run A and B testing and they have a
What does that look like, A and B testing?
So you take sites with no technology in and you are with equal footfall to another site. And then you can measure uplift by, for instance, putting a print on a wall. Let's say that's a multiplier of 1, just putting a print of a brand on a wall. The data we're getting back now, which is quite compelling, is if you put a digital screen on the wall, the multiplier is around 2.
Okay.
So you've doubled your brand exposure using a digital screen. Now
do you reckon, sorry to interrupt you there, but I wondered, is that being helped along by just the fact that we're constantly looking, especially younger people, constantly looking at videos? You're constantly.
I think we're joining the gap, basically. So, historically, landscape was the go-to. These days, portrait. Why? Because everybody has a mobile phone, and their mobile phones are in portrait. So it's a natural join between a mobile and actually being able to understand and process the actual advertising. And then we did the B testing with a lift to inspire, what we call lift to inspire, which is lift and learn, which is delivered between 5 companies within our ecosystem. And the multiplier was 7.5 times, purely on the grounds that if you can have a customer pick up a product, learn more about a product, and be able to compare products, which is also quite important, to then be able to measure that uplift on the sales. That's fascinating. But what we're also doing at the same time is we're providing the data back to the retailer and the brand. So we can say we've had 1,000 people walk past. We've had 20 stop, 11 pick up X brand for 20 seconds. And then and we can track whether they put the product straight back down again or they watch the whole video. So all of that data is now collated to be able to then give back to the brands and the retailers and say, well, look, this is actually how powerful that immersive experience in retail is. And that's gaining a lot of traction, not necessarily just in the UK, but we're doing rollouts in Africa and in the Nordics as well. And it isn't a one size fits all. It is very much how do you build that solution to be able to engage with your customers?
Yeah, no, it's interesting stuff. I guess probably I'm thinking about this again in terms of videos on mobile phones as well. Do you have to keep those videos relatively short because of people's
we always
attention
recommend
span?
10 to 15 seconds. Any longer than that, people won't just stand and browse and stare at a screen. They'll get distracted. So that's typically the case.
Yeah. So from the retailer's point of view, you've got the print media, you've got then getting to a factor of two, just a standard video, but then obviously there's a huge uplift in engagement if you can turn that into something a bit more interactive, like lift and learn. Yeah. Okay. What about from the point of view of a reseller or an integrator that's getting involved in digital signage? Just to sort of pull back a little bit, what's involved from their point of view?
Certainly from the relationships we work with the resellers is predominantly we're there to help and support them. They will more than likely have these customers already, but have never ventured out into understanding that new revenue stream for them. So offering a new solution to a customer. We're working with a print management company at the moment who have never done anything digital signage. It's a new journey for them, but they've suddenly realised that actually they can then start offering a broader solution to their customer rather than saying we just do print. That's all we can do. Like many of these resellers, they want to try and sell solutions and broader solutions to their customers. And I think that's where I actually spend most of my time on the road, speaking, educating and supporting customers and resellers, predominantly in how to roll out and how to use these new solutions. Because the first steps are complicated, but once you've done one or two, it becomes BAU in the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is an area that I'm really interested in because we've got our customers, our resellers have got those customers, whether they're retailers or hospitality outlets, they're selling the point of sale to them, they're possibly selling self-service kiosks to them as well, payment solutions, they're doing so much for them. And we're starting to see, at the moment it's just a trickle, but I think it can grow. We're starting to see people coming to us and saying, our customers are asking for the digital menu boards in hospitality and possibly even the retail media. And what are there challenges for resellers who perhaps or integrators who haven't done that before? Are there challenges to expand into the signage side of things, would you say?
I think it's a learning exercise. But again, as I said, it's our job to help support that.
I mean, my view is they're already selling technology into those retailers, those restaurants, whatever. It's just a different type of technology. It's just an additional technology. It's the way I see it.
Absolutely. I mean, we do. We sell quite a lot of QSR as well. So a lot of menu boards, what we call synced menu boards.
Synced menu boards.
So the ability to have content not just on one screen but on multiple screens. But then across multiple screens as well. We fell into that market again by accident, predominantly on the grounds that.
Do you ever do anything on purpose? You need to be more deliberate, Andrew.
I'd like to say yes. I think.
Sorry.
I think more important. I think.
I'm not having a go at you.
No, not at all. I think what you find is because we're a small software partner and a technology partner, people come to us and predominantly come to me and ask to solve problems, and those problems then turn into product. So and that's what I find fascinating. Is the technology can deliver it, but how it's delivered and whether it's delivered well is a very different question. We see a lot of menu boards that are very disparate to the rest of the technology in QSR. But what we ended up doing was being able to start saying, well, look, we support the QSR. We do a lot of work with Square in the UK, and it's now spanning out into the US and Europe. So we did an integration into Square so that we can have a full kiosk experience, but also off the back of that, because we already do signage, we can do the menu boards, we can do the in windows. And that means that we just have a single pane of glass from a solution point of view to be able to operate everything. We've fought for years trying to get into the menu board industry. It's full of software partners. Why try and compete against them? Because typically and historically it's a race to the bottom. It's easy to turn around and say, well, actually, we'll solve your kiosk and your QSR ordering journeys, but actually at the same time, why don't we do your menu boards? Because for every kiosk we sell, on average, we sell 2.4 menu boards.
Yeah.
And we just bring that solution together. And
it's got to be important that all of that stuff is integrated, that it works together.
Absolutely.
I think it's particularly, as we were saying in retail, the same thing will apply in hospitality. If you can drive, if the content on the screens on the digital menu boards is driving people to order certain things either at the POS or on the kiosk, that's working together, and it must be integrated with the POS as well too.
Absolutely, and importantly for all of these QSR partners is that upselling is key. They need to make 40% of their margin on upselling. So as a result of that, why don't we try and make their lives easier? I mean, it's critical at the moment, especially since the market's so difficult.
Yeah, and I think the way I see it is there's an opportunity there for somebody who's perhaps very heavily involved in point of sale and POS solutions, maybe self-service as well. There's an opportunity for them to expand that, to integrate with the signage, whether it's in retail or hospitality. Yeah. And you've got experience of doing that with existing partners that you're already working with.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Good. Just going back to retail again, because I get
we digress.
Yeah, I get quite the last couple of podcasts I've done have been about very heavily hospitality focused. I've got really into that at the moment. I was thinking, menu boards and that sort of thing. But in retail media, it seems like this is actually an area where retailers can actively make money out of selling that, I guess, by promoting the brands. But how does that typically work financially from your point of view?
Good question.
Thanks. I prepared it before.
There are a lot of companies out there at the moment that are providing the end-to-end solution. So what that means is they'll deal with the advertising, they'll deal with the content delivery, they'll fund and finance all of the hardware, and they'll manage that solution for the customer. Of course, from their point of view, there is no cost and very low risk for the retailer to be able to deploy that. That's absolutely fine, but obviously they have to make their money back, and there has to be an investment collectively as a solution. So they will be taking revenue on that advertising naturally. Or you'll find a retailer that can asset finance, and they'll go and invest in the hardware and the solution. And then the difficult job is then for them to be able to find the advertising revenue. And that's a lot harder than people think. We're working with a car forecourt business at the moment whereby they're looking to build their own advertising revenue. I think it's difficult. But at the same time, we work with partners who can go and asset finance or lease the hardware and the solution to the retailer and provide it as an OPEX opportunity for them. So, I mean, there's numerous ways of skinning that cat.
Why is it difficult then to find the
the advertising model historically is quite well tightened up, and it works within 6 or 7 companies that manage and deliver and work with the liaising of all of the brands. I'm hoping over the next decade or so that will break up slightly, and the reason being, certainly in the retail media world, is retailers are very price sensitive. They will want to get as much or as many cents on the dollar as possible through their stores from that investment and that advertising. Whereas historically, a lot of the digital out of home, there's a lot of margins been made on the actual advertising and the people that handle those adverts. And so that model's changing quite heavily at the moment. And I'm hoping in the next 10 years it'll significantly change as well.
I mean, the amount of data available,
it's incredible,
to the retailer that they can provide back to the advertising company is significant, isn't it? I mean, I think if you're it seems like quite a good bet because you can actually see whether it's working or not. You're not just throwing money at a screen in the street. You've got advertising targeted next to the products as they're sold in the store. You've got that same store that's then going to report back to you, well, we ran your advert for 3 days and sales increased by 25% during those 3 days. I mean, that's a pretty powerful selling message back to an advertiser, I would imagine.
No, absolutely. And from a retailer's point of view, if you look at that on either small or large scale, the ROI on that investment is quite high, or as in very, very quick. You know, we worked with a small pet store chain in North Wales, and within 5 weeks, their investment was returned on their advertising. Wow. I mean, again, it's a lot of hard work to find those brands, but when you're working in the tier 3 and the tier 4s of the smaller retailers, they're working closely with these brands anyway. So for them, I think that model's slightly easier.
Yeah.
But if I was a small brand and I said, well, look, I've got a new launch of products coming into the market, it's great to try and work with the major supermarkets. Sure, they've got the footfall, but focusing on some of these smaller networks of retailers and being able as a brand to have your product in store in front of hundreds of thousands of people a week, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of people a week, whereby you could say, well, I'll go and spend a pot in store, but historically they're spending huge amounts of money online and advertising where they can't measure the return on that investment specifically. Whereas, you know, they could spend 10 or 20% of that marketing budget and put it in within the retail space. And with the data that we're working on at the moment, they're getting some very interesting uplift on their products.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. So is it just is the problem just historically what they've done? We've always done it this way. We've always spent money on
the big brands.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they always will. I mean, you look at Times Square and how much they spend every year. You know, the big drinks brands, the big alcohol brands, how much they spend on advertising and digital out of home. I mean, it's enormous. And, you know, a lot of brands don't have any of that marketing budget to even get started on that. So focusing on the smaller side of the retailers and targeting product marketing in the retail space is, for what we're seeing at the moment with the retailer we're working with in the UK, it's incredible.
And you think it's probably even a bigger opportunity in that tier 3, tier 4 space, because a lot of our resellers are very much focused on that, whether that be retail or hospitality. So we've certainly got customers who have those customers there. And I think as well, those smaller customers are perhaps less likely to already have an established relationship with the signage provider as well. I think they're probably more likely to say, and in fact I know that this is the case, they're going to their local technology provider that does the POS, that maybe even does the security for them as well, and saying, I've heard that I might be able to help me with the screens. Yeah.
No, absolutely, and that's where I think probably yourselves in particular and your partners are in a very strong position to help them with it. And that's nice. I mean, that's why I think where we've agreed with yourselves to start working together is to be able to help your resellers be able to add that value to their customers. It's so important.
So another interesting thing about that I think is how you've taken a lot of years to really develop that software to, I would imagine, a very high level. I wonder if, as some of our customers are looking or getting pulled by their retail customers, they're getting pulled into that world, whether they might think, do you know what, we're a software company, we've developed our own point of sale or self-service software, we can do signage, we can put that together. What would you say to somebody who's got that idea?
I think domain knowledge is key. I think experience is key. We come up against numerous installs, what we call retrofitting sites, where retailers have tried installing solutions. They've been sold the solution, or they've had a partner come to them and said, we'll do it for you.
I bet some of them have even probably tried to do it themselves, have they?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's this age-old question of build or buy, right? So, yes, you can build. We worked with a retailer not that long ago who said, "Okay, don't worry. I mean, this we can do this ourselves." I was like, "Okay, that's fine. It's fine." But the problem you inherently have is if, especially in the software world, is you. It's all very well trying to build a proof of concept, a minimum viable product. You name it whatever you like, but trying to get it out into the wild on scale is very difficult. One or two sites, and you've got, for argument's sake, 2 or 3 people helping support from the software side in-house. But as you scale, you need to bring in the support, you need to bring in the bug fixing, the security aspects of the world. And inevitably, that's where what we call technical debt comes in, which is that you might well go and sell that solution to a customer, and then you will go and find yourself selling another solution to a customer and another solution to a customer. And certainly in the software world, hopping between delivering software solutions and keeping them up to date and adding more features is very complex. And we've learned that ourselves. So 7 or 8 years ago, before we even started building Evexi, we used to build integrations into a CMS vendor. We did 4 or 5, and naturally, over time, you'll lose some staff. And then this technical debt just builds up. All of a sudden, there's a problem, and the customer is paying you to fix it. But at the same time, the person that wrote that software has left your business. So it's very, very difficult. Whereas when you buy it from a partner who specializes in being able to deliver that software, you can phone them and they'll fix it. That's what they're responsible for. That's what they're passionate about, and that's what they build, and that's what their business does and functions with. And that's where we always see where we win predominantly, certainly on large rollouts. And importantly, our partners need that assurance from us as well.
I guess it's the speed to deploy it as well, isn't it? You've got to go away and develop it yourselves alongside developing, your existing POS software as well. If somebody wants to put in signage, they're not going to say we want it tomorrow, but they're not going to say, we think we might do it in 2 years' time. They're probably going to say, we want to get this going as quickly as possible. We've got this great idea. CEO wants to see it put in. We're not going to wait 18 months for you to develop it. We'll go buy it elsewhere if you don't have it already. So
absolutely, and that's the problem, right? So typically we have Lift to Inspire, immersive lift and learn solution. By the time we got that out, tested, trialed, rolled out, people started buying the software. That took us 2 years to get that bulletproof, and it's not even per se bulletproof today, because another security aspect might come out in the world, and we've got to patch it and fix it. It's a very cumbersome life cycle, and people think, I have to pay monthly subscription fees or annual subscription fees. Why? Well, because we're there maintaining, supporting, adding new features and providing, that peace of mind that, the software works.
So aside from this, perhaps a bit of a lack of understanding in terms of the importance of getting the right software that's been purpose-built over a period of years, what else is frustrating you about the industry? Talk to me about your annoyances, Andrew. Big sigh there. Unload on me.
And trying not to be technical. I have historically had a strong aversion to Android. My background is open source, so I've lived and breathed the Linux world, or Unix as some people know it from his previous life. Android for me is a lower cost solution to delivering digital signage. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. Everything has its purpose, but my background is security. There's a lot of Android players, digital signage players we see out there on people's estates, which are running end of life. So, that software could have ended its life 4 or 5 years ago. I'll give you the analogy. Nobody runs Windows XP or Windows 7 anymore because it's not maintained and not supported. So, why buy a digital signage screen which isn't maintained and supported from the operating system? We see a lot of it, and I think that's an area of my frustration. And I'm coming to terms with some of the later Android releases now, and we will, within the next 6 months, support Android, but of certain variants. I suppose one of my other frustrations or observations is there's a lot of panels coming in from Asia at the moment, which are 10%, 15%, 20% cheaper than some of the other major brands. Again, they have their place. The problem I have is, once we've done a lot of testing on these screens, they cost a lot of money to run. They're not energy efficient. Everybody is mindful about their carbon footprint now.
That's huge. I mean, we were looking recently at a previous podcast about some of the things that are really high on retail CEOs' radars, and top three is definitely the environmental considerations, whether that's the COP. And the environmental considerations as well are on their radar, not because they should be on their radar, but also because it's
a mandate. More or less.
It's becoming a significant cost area. You know, you put those two things together, and it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the problem for me is if you say, "Well, I'm going to roll out 100 screens and they're 20% cheaper on a capex investment," they forget that they're 30% more expensive to run. So if you look at that model over 5 years, just even for the moment, just ignoring the incentives and the requirements to be carbon sensitive, they're actually spending more on the solution. And those solutions are, being careful what I say here, those solutions typically, or examples I've seen, are substandard from what we're looking at to deliver from a digital signage solution. So yeah, that's one of my bugbears. And I spend a lot of time trying to educate people to say, you know, it might be cheap to buy, but the age-old saying of buy cheap, buy twice still exists, and certainly in this industry.
Yeah. Okay. So what does the future look like? How do you see the market, the signage platform market evolving in terms of customer demands and that sort of things?
I think more retailers, certainly after COVID now, are wanting to invest in their estates. They are, certainly in the retail space, more sensitive to cost. I completely agree with them. I think we'll see more and more screens being deployed, but strategically and carefully deployed. So if you have a brand who wants to advertise in store, you don't need to fill the store with thousands of screens. It's not a casino. It's more along the lines of, strategically, the screens will continue to be deployed on the grounds that there's an ROI on them, certainly for the retailer. You know, historically, 10 or 15 years ago, people just deployed screens and, not worry about the cost, not worry actually what they're doing. It was cool to have screens in store. Whereas these days, it's much more targeted, focused, and run on a P&L, which is important.
Yes, and also, Andrew, what other technologies are you seeing that are getting you excited at the moment?
You do like to ask difficult questions. So
I do it deliberately.
I'm really interested in the e-paper world. I think it's getting...
What do you mean exactly by e-paper?
So it's not digital signage. It's ink on a screen. That what basically happens is it only consumes power when it changes its content. So historically, you might remember, like, for instance, Kindles. In their infancy, they were black and white, and every time you change a page, press a button and it refreshes itself. So e-paper is exactly the same as a fundamental, whereby it will display a nice coloured image, and then it will change at certain intervals. So that technology is very different. Without kind of going into too much detail, what that means is that screen can run without any power. It runs on a battery, and it lasts for as long as the number of changes that take place. So if you have, for example, in a restaurant, a menu that changes every month, that's 12 changes a year. That screen could actually last maybe 3 years without ever being plugged in. So that's in its simplistic format. Then what you also have is, for instance, you might want to change content more regularly. Well, if that's the case and you want to change it every day,
lunchtime menu and an evening menu,
and it still fulfills it's a digital screen, but it has no real carbon footprint, but it doesn't consume power in watts, and a screen, for instance, consumes 200 watts. This is then calculated on how many times the content changes before the screen needs to be recharged.
What size are we looking at for these
we've seen them from 13 all the way up to 32. But the limiting technology at the moment, and which is emerging, is the color depth. So if you are a brand who is very sensitive to color, a red drinks brand, a red drinks brand will need to make sure that e-paper screen, the color is bang on the same color as what their brand is. And that
they tend to be pretty sensitive about this.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we're getting closer and closer to it all the time. We're working with partners at the moment who are already deploying them, and we already support an e-paper hardware vendor. But it's in its infancy. We're talking with other large panel vendors where they haven't got huge orders yet, but everybody's interested in it. And the question is how big can that screen be? You want it to be 75-inch screen? Fine. But I mean, and because this market is still very new and niche, the costs are still quite high. But over time, that price will drop. But we find it fascinating because what happens in our world is we have a real-time connection between our platform and a normal screen. So every time there's a change, bang, we send it straight to the screen. On an e-paper, it will turn around, it will go to sleep for a week, and then it will wake up and say, hello, have I got any changes? And it'll go to sleep again. So it's a slightly different way of managing that content, which technically it's not that complicated, but it's actually quite interesting.
But if you decided that you wanted to change something earlier on, you change chef, you need to change the menu sooner than you expected, you can wake it up whenever you need
there are
to,
ways of going around that, exactly. But every time it wakes up, it uses power. Every time it goes to sleep, it uses power. And then when it displays, it just sits there and just shows a pretty screen. So, no, I mean, we find that quite interesting.
Is it primarily the environmental demands that are increasing requirements for that? Or are there
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, the drive is, let's stop printing. So, it's important to display your menu. In certain countries, by law, you have to display your menu for food allergies, for pricing, price changes. So instead of every time sending somebody out to go and print something off and hang it on a wall, if you look at that over 5 years, when is the price of that e-paper device going to be cost neutral to not having paper on a wall anymore? Because you're not trying to deliver videos, high quality videos, and influence somebody's decision per se, but at the same time, it's an information screen. It's interesting, and we're seeing more of it in the digital art world. And that, for me, I find quite fascinating too. So
I mean, that's a technology that's available already. Obviously, the cost is going to come down. If we look a little bit further out, my question I like to ask everybody that comes here is, what's the market going to look like in 25 years' time? Where are we heading?
Retail, in my view, will still exist. I think it will be a lot more joined up than it currently is. I think the AI tooling that everybody's still talking about will be maturing. We're seeing a lot of people nervous about what AI is doing on the grounds that people will not be needed to create content anymore because AI can do it. I've seen examples of it. I don't believe in it at the moment. I think AI has a great place.
It's got to get better, though, hasn't it?
It will improve.
Don't know whether the content creation's ever going to get as good at writing as Hemingway or Dickens or something like that. But it's
showing your age, Richard.
You've got to love the classics, right? Remember when we were alive.
I think AI will be much more prevalent in the retail space. I think the journey will be a lot more joined up. I've always been fascinated by the fact that, and some people from a privacy point of view don't like it, that I should be able to walk into a store. That store will automatically recognize me. It will know what I like, what I don't like, what I buy, and almost go down the route of having a full experience in a retail space without the cumbersome side of shopping.
I think it's interesting how people view it differently online and offline, because I mean, how many people bother to go through all the things with the cookies online? They just go, accept the cookies, accept the cookies. But you walk into a store, and your immediate view is, I do not accept the cookies. I do not want to sign up to your loyalty program. I don't want to give you my email address. I don't want any spam from you. And I think that makes it more difficult in store to deliver that personalised experience, or it certainly seems to have done so far, right?
And the retailers are really beginning to become very switched on as to what this Gen Z want. They, as I mentioned earlier, they already know what they're looking for. They just need to understand the final part of the jigsaw puzzle as to what they're going to buy. Historically, people would just walk in and go, I need toothpaste. And they'll go and browse around and find toothpaste. And they'll pick one, whether it's cheaper or premium or specific to what their requirements are. This younger generation already know what toothpaste they want, which influencer's been, talking about it and promoting it, and they want to be able to walk in, have an experience, enjoy the experience, and walk out. And I think,
was thinking, like, imagine what it would be like to be a toothpaste influencer. That's a sad job. You think this, selling this technology job is tragic, but a toothpaste influencer.
but no, I think it's going to be, the journey is going to be very connected.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited by that. I mean, we've done certain prototypes and examples of immersive retail, and people want an experience. They don't just want to shop.
Yeah, I think the challenging thing seems to be is there's been all the different buzzwords for it, connected retail, omni-channel, all the different iterations of that we've gone through. But the thing is, there are so many different technology solutions that are needed in retail. Even if you just look at point of sale and payments, and then you add in self-service into there and integrating payments with that. It's very, very complicated, and making that a lot more seamless, making it all work together. That seems to be the challenge. Integrated systems in hospitality being a big thing as well. So it'll be certainly very, very interesting to see how that pans out over the next.
And ultimately frictionless. I mean, for instance, I went into a stadium a couple of weeks ago, and I just tapped my card, and I walked around the stadium, and I just picked up a beer. Didn't have to do anything else, and I walked out. It knew I'd picked up a beer. I mean,
imagine, was that a technology solution, or is that just because you're a little bit dodgy, Andrew? Are you
that
sure
was a legitimate
working,
technology solution.
Because I feel uncomfortable going into those seamless stores, with the Amazon stores or whatever. I feel a bit uncomfortable walking in there, picking something up and walking out again. I feel like I still feel like I need the validation of having. I've paid for it. Is that just me?
Yes. This younger generation want nothing to do with that, really. I feel. I think they just want to
a lot more comfortable with shoplifting than I am. Fair enough. So I don't know whether within this industry or outside, what technology is getting you really excited at the moment?
AI, I'm fascinated in.
Yeah.
I'm very fascinated because I heavily am fascinated in technology, in crypto. There's a lot of bad things going on in crypto, but from a technology point of view, I'm fascinated by it. The future of payments globally, which I think will ultimately come through crypto as well, which is quite interesting, certainly. And I live and breathe and read technology every day. We're always interested in looking to try and to integrate technology within our platform and our ecosystem, for sure.
Yeah, that certainly the crypto world is an area of fascination, and we're heavily involved in payments. And the question we get asked quite a bit is how soon will you be able to pay at the till in retail using crypto? And I mean, technically, it's possible. It's possible to do it now. There's no
governments are for sure on board and already working towards using cryptocurrencies. We're just not all aware of it at the moment. And banks, absolutely. I mean, if they can replace, for argument's sake, SWIFT payments, which is quite an old technology now, to a seamless payment integration using crypto. I mean, and that.
It's a whole other podcast in itself.
Whole other podcast.
We'll have to invite you back in there.
I've cracked that one, okay.
Crypto podcast. Okay. So, I mean, that's the future. Let's look at the past a little bit here. It's another question I love to ask guests that come on here. What have you learned in your career that you wish you'd known when you started in the industry all those many, many years ago?
It's not as easy as you think it is. Our success story to get going was we were extremely fortunate that Sky came to us. Extremely fortunate. It's not every day that one of the world's largest media companies comes to you and says, can you build a solution for us? We delivered that. We're immensely proud of it. But then trying to go to market and finding other customers was extremely difficult. The AV world is very complicated. It is very hard to get into. It's when you're entering into a market where you don't know anybody and everybody predominantly has worked with each other for 15 or 20 years, the new kid on the block, people are quite resistant to. Not that we were potentially changing
That's
anything.
very encouraging advice as we enter the signage market.
No, but my point being is that, you know, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for distribution, ultimately. You know, we didn't know a lot of people in the industry then. But, you know, there's over 3,000 CMS vendors out there, digital signage vendors out there. And they pop up all the time from a project by project basis. And you think, well, I hope they'll last, but will they last? Because it's so hard getting onto that next stepping stone. And it's tricky. Would I do it again? Probably. But I'd do it probably at in a slightly different angle. You know, there's no point in trying to build a digital signage software platform which is the same as everybody else. You're competing against everybody. You've got to be different. And we've done things quite differently from our point of view, i.e. 8 years ago, there weren't that many cloud native digital signage providers. So we're cloud native, i.e. we live and breathe in the cloud. We're not a server, we're services that grow and shrink and grow and shrink. And we do a lot of what we call automated tasks in our system so that users don't have to do anything manually. You know, if we hadn't have got some of those fundamentals and some of the trying to make people's lives easier, you know, I don't think we would have lasted very long, to be honest with you. It is tough. It is very, very tough. And there's some very, very big boys in this market.
Yeah. So in summary, you've been lucky, but it's amazing how lucky you get when you work really, really hard at it, right?
You work hard, you play hard. This industry, you play very hard.
Yeah. I think that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about building relationships. I mean, and unless you're prepared as a business owner to go out and make and build relationships in probably in many other industries, it's very hard to succeed.
Good. Well,
but it's exciting, and it's.
We certainly wish you every success. We've spoken a lot about the industry. And I know you've travelled a long way to be here. Just as a few closing words, just tell us a little bit more about Evexi, how you want to work with resellers. Any sort of closing messages you'd like to give to the Blue Star?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're channel only, so we only sell through our partners.
Very important.
Absolutely for us. So we're good at the software side. We have partners that are good at building mounts, enclosures. We have partners who are good at building sensors. We obviously don't build hardware with screens. And so we fit into that ecosystem. Typically, in a deployment on a day-to-day basis, there'll be 3 or 4 partners involved, you know, just to be able to deliver that solution. And luckily, working through distribution, all of that comes through together. We're always looking for more partners who have got a very strong client base in retail and who are looking to give their customers something different.
I think that's why we see the attraction of working together with Evexi. Those are our customers.
Absolutely.
Our resellers are very strong in retail hospitality. Yeah, we've got others in other industries that have got a lot of strengths as well. But certainly from my point of view, retail hospitality. Yeah.
And we do things differently. So, for example, we try and automate as much as possible. We try and make partners' lives easy. You know, we have end users using our system. We have resellers using our systems. We have systems integrators using our systems. And our job at the end of the day is to look after those partners. You know, if we can't keep them happy and we're not a success story for them, you know, it's never going to work, right? So that's kind of the space we sit in. So always actively looking for new partners with new challenges, really.
Okay. Well, hopefully some of those will watch this and get in contact. We can certainly happy to make that introduction if anyone
Super.
You know, anyone contacts me, and the Blue Star team will get them in contact with you. Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure as always talking to you today. Thank you very much for taking the time to come to the Bluecast, the Ask Blue podcast. Easy for you to say. Studios. We'll see you again really soon, and thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back really soon with the next fascinating Ask Blue podcast.